And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be talking about Raised by Wolves, Season 2, Episode number 6, The Tree. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment, and full spoilers ahead. There is a lot to talk about. I have extensive notes, and I don't even know where I want to start. I guess I'm going to jump towards the end of the episode with a very long sequence that has been building for a couple episodes now. That being the birth of Tempest's child. Um, I wasn't sure where they were going with this. You know, mother is very intent on this child being born. Tempest doesn't want to deal with the child, and we know why because of the circumstance of the pregnancy. So I assumed when she went to Acid Ocean that she was just going to leap into the ocean. I thought that's where they were going, and then I was like, okay, no, maybe she'll give birth, and the idea is to throw the child into the ocean. So that's where my mind was. Where my mind was not was the fact that a mer creature would come out, steal the baby, put it inside of its chest, and then dive back into Acid Ocean. I mean, I don't even have a theory. I don't have a real thought on what that meant or where this is leading. What led to this creature wanting the child? I don't know. It was insane. It was nightmarish. It was very Lovecraftian in the way it was just portrayed. Because when it first grabbed the baby, I was like, "What the fuck? You know, what's it gonna do?" And the way it was cupping it in its hands, and then when its chest opened up and it sticks the child in, I'm like, "Oh, okay." Um, I wanted to start with that just because that was the most shocking thing in the episode, and there was a lot of shocking stuff in this episode. So, Tempest child, mer creature, baby, thoughts.
I have half a theory about that. Like not a fully formed thing because it's hard to because it's so weird. You know this whole episode, and I may have said about last episode too, but this episode was very Lovecraftian with all the weird things that were just going on here. But like the first thing, like, and I think the scene was prior to this one. We saw where father was examining grandmother, and we saw like a projection of one of those things, and the episode before we saw a projection of the baby. So my thoughts are here that maybe because I was thinking during the episode, I thought, okay, well, why does the mer creature want it? But then thinking back to that, and it's like, okay, well, maybe the creature itself doesn't want it. Maybe grandmother wants the baby for some reason, and it's likely not the source of the signal, but it's likely that's tech that exists on this world, and that she's transmitted a similar signal to one of those creatures that Sue and Marcus and other characters have had in their head that tells them to do things, that you know uh she's just using the same kind of control that whatever is trying to control Sue and the Mithraic. She's using the same thing except on other creatures on this planet.
Yeah,
Yeah, that.
that the whole mer thing. The it just it reminds me of like those silly videos of people wearing really long tees and they can't like stretch their legs out because the way the legs are kind of covered in their skin, and then it opened its mouth and it looked like piranha teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Very scary, but it wasn't as scary all up until the point where his chest opened up and it like shoved the baby inside of it. And in the last couple episodes too, we've seen it a couple times now, but I think the scale, it didn't feel as big.
Yeah.
Grabbed the robots. I don't remember the Eden faced robot's name. The android who almost got their leg taken off when it grabbed its leg, and like the acid was eating away at its leg and stuff. It it was crazy that it didn't feel that big because it was kind of always on the ground. But then when it stood up in front of Tempest and stuck its hand out, like the hand was the size of Tempest's arm. The fingers were as long as Tempest's arm. And I never felt like it was that large until that point, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And then it became more terrifying. And there's a lot of little aspects of this show that they're so sci-fi, but it's almost, we've mentioned a couple of the episodes feeling like, horror movies, and that scene felt very similar to that.
Well, I also want to say, like, my first thought before the theory I just mentioned and everything, when she took the baby, when she was walking across the clearly wet rocks barefoot, I know
Look,
we say it every episode, and it might as well be the subtitle of this whole thing. But what are the rules for this acid ocean?
I was gonna make a joke and I didn't, and I guess I'll do it now because I was like, clearly her plan is to just breathe in the air and that'll kill her and the child. Because I was like, what are the rules with this acid ocean? And as you point out, she was barefoot.
It burned her, but not the baby.
Well, and what I thought was going to happen, like the whole time they're in the ocean and they're sitting there, I thought that the tide was going to come in and they were going to be stuck on that rock.
Yeah.
What I thought was going to happen.
So we did get some answers, a few answers when it comes to grandmother. Not a lot, but a few, and that being that she is ancient. It is Mithraic tech. The grandmother is the perfect title in terms of sort of the original of what mother became, though mother is purely this weapon, which is even referenced. The thing that was most intriguing about the revelations, or what we were learning about this character, is the fact that her confusion with father, the idea of a partner, and almost as if father is a thing that he doesn't even realize he is, or has a role that he doesn't even understand. I was trying to figure out where they were going with that. We've had a lot of theories in the past about father in terms of there's got to be more. Why was he paired with mother? What, you know what I mean? And I think they're even alluding even more so that there is something with father. He was the one that found this thing. He was the one that instinctively sort of knew what to do, whether it was deep in his programming to how to revitalize grandmother. And side note before I let you guys get into that, him explaining that the tech in which how she operates, Campion and then we're all getting excited because they're like, holy shit, the growing of her. They're like, we could grow cities and all these things, and we know within their text and their lore is the idea of this city that will be birthed basically. And so it's like, oh shit, they're setting all that up. But yeah, thoughts on grandmother?
Yeah. Like you said, it's I think the most worrying thing is, and perhaps this even goes into the whole mermaid thing with the baby. We still don't know what her function is, what her purpose is, and that's the one thing they never discerned. But the tech does change. I think show that they're like, because there's clearly going to be another season, that there's going to be potentially between this season and the next one a huge technological leap. If they gain a good understanding of how mother's tech works, and who knows what that next season will be like. It could be such a huge leap. But like you were also saying about father, the way that she relates to him, we were saying since season one that we get very little backstory about father. There's implications that there's something more about him, and there's also implications that he's a common service model, but that just seems to be like sort of to throw us off, if anything, because he seems unusually intelligent, and I don't think any of the people that say that about him realize how intelligent he is, and I doubt that the model that he is supposed to be as intelligent as he is. So there's more there, and like you said, there may be a connection with mother. I mean, not mother, but grandmother, and and at that, how does mother relate to grandmother? Is it intended for what she is to be a weapon, or was that the Mithraic misinterpreting stuff?
Well, I think that, when you look at, I don't want to step in shit and piss people off, but when you, religion being based in, I don't want to say like myth, but just like all myths and legends. They're based somewhat in reality, you know, and it's kind of enhanced versions of instances that happened. When you look at Noah and the flood, like that whole area did get flooded, and in his eyes, you know, the whole earth would have been covered in water because, you know, his foreseeable earth was covered in water. So I think when you look at the Mithraic, it was speaking ancient Mithraic. When we talk about Saul and being able to speak to people, all these things I feel are, you know, explained by whatever originally landed on this planet as far as tech wise goes. Campion Sturges was a atheist who stole some of the technology and started building his own. So it's, you know, Mother is a bastardized version of a Mithraic necromancer. So I think that all of these things, you know, grandmother and all these other beings on this planet, the Mithraic religion could have started here, as opposed to vice versa. Like they could have been looking for this planet because of kind of Mithraic hints leading them back here. And that could have been whatever founded the Mithraic religion, whatever this AI is, maybe was looking for Earth to bring people back to this planet to repopulate it because it got so technologically advanced that it basically destroyed itself. So I am curious as to some of those kind of questions being answered throughout the end of this season.
Yeah, and you know, and I think you're alluding to this too. It may not have even been a religion to start with, like with the Mithraic, you know, that we know, the Mithraic from Earth. What they've been interpreting could have been, for all we know, a history book from this civilization that existed before, you know, or you know, a transmission of their history. And it's like, no, these aren't, you know, religion. Like this isn't a religion or scripture. This is text and history that you've read it and you've translated differently. You know, your schematic for a necromancer is our schematic for, you know, whatever the heck grandmother is. And in fact, in that, you know, when you mentioned that Mother is sort of a bastardization of a necromancer, you know, I just thought about how interesting that is, that, you know, we think that, okay, grandmother is like a step above Mother. It's the original idea of what she is like, but actually Mother is like sort of two steps removed because she's a bastardization of a necromancer, and the necromancers are based off of grandmother. So Mother's kind of something entirely unique unto herself, you know, so.
Yeah, because remember Campion, all the work he did to change her even from what they had made her, you know, that's the weapon. Like she is a unique in that no other version of her would have the you know, she's to raise children and all that stuff. That was not the intent of the model. Now it was clever for him to do it because he's like, okay, your job is to raise children, and you're also the most powerful and deadly weapon known to man. But yeah, grandmother, because they were pointing that out. I think was it grandmother that said that Mother was just a weapon.
She called her a weapon, yeah, because you know, because Father said, you know, when she asked if Father, you know, just sort of quizzically, you're like, you're not my partner, and he's like, no, Mother's my partner, and she goes, the weapon,
yeah. Sue's all in now. Boy, she's in. You know, she's like, all right, let's do this. I'm gonna get Marcus. I'm gonna get Paul, and you know, we're gonna plant the seed. And so we have on the side, we have Lucius, who still wants to kill Marcus because he's, you know, Lucius is a true believer. He believes Marcus is a false prophet. I guess Marcus thinks that he really is a prophet. I don't know. Marcus is a tricky character to really grasp at any given time, but you know, he's playing the role. And we find out that metal card that he had was somewhat of a warning. That's what Lucius says. But anyways, they end up taking the device. They take it out in middle of nowhere, and Sue singing opens it. She touches whatever that shit was inside of it. It goes inside of her. And is she the tree? Like, I wasn't sure what exactly happened
Yeah.
there. They didn't completely show it. My assumption is
Mhm.
she biologically was transformed into whatever this is, and there is fruit that has fallen from it. Marcus enjoys some of this fruit, and yeah, the prophecy is being fulfilled, but what exactly is it? What is the warning? What exactly is happening? Are they, is the signal that's guiding them to do this, what is its, intent? Obviously, we don't know, and I doubt we'll truly know even by the end of this episode. That's part of the mystery, I think, of the show. But um, Marcus is fulfilling his role, and some people, I think, may see that and think that Lucius still wants to kill him. So where does Marcus go from here? I ask it almost every week because I keep thinking Marcus's story is over, and then there's another chapter to it. But thoughts on the Sue? I guess Sue's gone, maybe. But Sue, Paul, and Marcus and the
I
tree.
have a whole different way of looking at this, and I just kind of thought of it. It and this is they've said this in tons of different kinds of sci-fi things, and I mean, you look at I Am Legend also, which isn't a great movie. It's a great comic, but how?
They're making a sequel, by the way.
Oh God,
I'm not making that up. That just got
I
announced.
believe you.
Hmm.
But when you look at the way they talk about how the earth, if people vacated, how plant life and all this stuff would basically come back and overtake. I think that whatever is working through, God damn it, I just spaced on there. Marcus and what's her face?
Sue.
I'm not going to say.
Sue.
God damn it.
Thank you, because I was nowhere near Sue. I don't know what I was gonna say. I was gonna make something up and just run with it, but with Marcus and Sue, it feels like that version of whatever AI is talking to them is kind of getting the let's bring plant life and earth back to this planet, and maybe the people will be part of that, like they'll become plants and to basically feed the AI and better the planet as opposed to be people who are ruining it. And I think that the Mer people were the original people, maybe the original atheists that destroyed this planet initially.
Wasn't that a Goosebumps book? Plant people.
Plant people.
Oh well, real quick, and then Larry can go. You may be on something. Remember in season 1, we kept thinking that there were multiple signals because we were like, there would seem to be contradictions. Like somebody would be like, "Oh, it told me to do this," and then somebody would have a thing they would do, and you're like, "I think there's more than one thing telling them to do shit." And this season hasn't really gone into that. But that's still a possibility that there's more than one voice, if you will, that's guiding people.
Well, I will say that's part of the grandmother theory that I have, that that this signal that they're using is just tech that existed on this world, and multiple parties that remain are using it for different means. I think, like Spencer said, that something is trying to make this world habitable for either itself or a previous resident. Like whatever the original Mithrakes were. This is possibly something that they've created to keep their civilization going. They planted a tree that's bearing fruit that we've never seen. A tree made of flesh, seemingly.
That was gross. It was so
it was
awesome.
very gross. Yeah, it was like, this is what I mean when I say this episode seemed very Lovecraftian. Between this and the mer creature, the fact that Sue turned into a tree, and God, what a horrible fate! Honestly, the way it looks painful.
Like, oh man, it was good. It felt good.
Yeah, it felt good to be that tree.
And I look at sci-fi where you have, like, even in Pacific Rim, where they're trying to terraform You're trying to terraform the planet. Even in Invincible, they're trying to take over to do those kind of things and make their planet habitable. Like that's what I'm saying as far as changing them into using the people that are there to basically terraform this planet. And whether it's for the AI, whoever's controlling the AI, maybe the planet itself is AI, like the whole planet, and it's like it's fucked. Let's start over. Like,
Yeah, I mean that is absolutely a consistent sort of idea with sort of Ridley Scott's version of his science fiction vision, as far as biology and machine being no different in terms of how they're treated. So the idea, yeah, that biology we can take a person and make them this thing or that thing, and just sort of the that very, I keep saying it, I hate to keep referencing it, but that Lovecraftian idea of flesh.
Yeah.
and and what is it, and what it can be used for, and so yeah, I love how a matter of fact the show is about everything it does. Like it, you know what I mean? Like it presents something that you scratch your head and you're like, what is going on? But the show is very confident in what it's doing, even though it doesn't always explain everything.
Yeah, exactly. Because like last season, they're like, okay, yeah, there's a Snork and a D20, just puking up android blood, seemingly. Like, are we going to explain that? Nope, not this season or the next one.
Yeah. But when they were trying to open the container that held the hell seed in it, the snake lost its shit and was freaking out. It knew, it felt, it was in tune with whatever it was that was happening. Why? Yet again, that's another thing. The flying serpent, it's like it's there, but they're not really digging into it. It's a child. We know it's young. It got upset, when mother yelled at it. Yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
well, to me, it goes back to the mer people. Look where he came out of. It looked like one of the giant snake holes. So, and we know that the serpent things can go into the water. I think that the serpents and the mer people are of the same ideology. I think that they are thinking the same way, and they're opposed to the grandmother slash Marcus Sue group. And I think that it, and like who, I don't remember who translated the little card, but it was a warning. It was like, don't
Lucius.
do it. Yeah. So I think that whoever is leaving these little boxes, and whoever's the Mithraic line is much different than I think the serpent slash mer people line, which I think that that strengthened my theory of the not only the multiple multiple attempts to colonize this planet, because I think that falls in line with what the amount of serpents I think is directly related to how many versions of basically Mother have showed up here. And it's happened several times. I think that each one of those serpents is, the seventh kid. I think that these mer people are multiple children that Mother or whoever, I guess, was there the last time, birthed. And then they became these people to basically hide from the Mithraic that keep showing up there. And I think that that's going to end up being the big battle there towards the end, is whatever this tree, whoever's trying to create these tree people, what their side is doing, because I think grandmother is on their side, trying to terraform the planet. And I think that her versus the serpent slash everything else is going to be a huge deal here very soon.
Well, it's hard to say for me because She was speaking in original Mithraic, well, what they called ancient Mithraic. The warning was written in ancient Mithraic, so grandmother could be good, or maybe even good is too simple a term to put on either of these things, good or bad. But like, if the warning was, maybe she's against this tree being created also, and like, in if the serpent has anything to do with the original Mithraic, then maybe the original Mithraic aren't so bad. Maybe they're not the ones manipulating people to do a lot of the evil that we're seeing being done. Like where Marcus is having the visions of killing Sue and whatnot, and wearing Ortho's helmet. Maybe that's not them. It's hard to say, because clearly, there's multiple forces at work here. And whereas before it seemed pretty clear that, okay, it's whoever spread this religion. Now the waters are a little bit more murky, because the warning is written in Mithraic. Would it potentially be written in a different language, unless there's two factions, within the same civilization that we're dealing with?
That's a good point.
I was going to say, what would be awesome is if it's really just one person and he figures if he can tear all the people away from each other, they'll just kill each other.
It's
And
a
then-
frog, man.
Just so in confusion.
Yeah, just while we talk about Lovecraftian, just sowing in chaos, turning everybody against each other.
Yeah, well, it's busy terraforming them, and re-terraforming and devolving them, and planting brain trees.
Taking babies and mer people,
having them raised by mer people for God knows what reason.
I'm about to say the nightmare that will become. I can't imagine.
Right?
Yeah, but think of all the things you just said. Like, if we were just having a conversation, be like, "Hey, you want to watch this movie where a mer person steals a baby, a lady turns into a tree, her husband eats her brains, and
this is specifically for the budget. This is the kind of show that would never have existed outside of streaming. In its form, in its current form, and in terms of having a solid budget and looking really good. The streaming wars are great in that everybody needs content, and they're going to big names, and they're basically giving them large checks and like, all right, make some shit for me, and a show like this is the product of that. So I'm not saying a show like this couldn't exist, but in terms of looking like film quality, no. Not before the streaming days. So that is, and this is one of the best streaming shows, I think, ever that's existed.
Well, and I think it goes back to the episode count. You look at shows like Arrow and Flash, which I think would do so much better if they were 13 episode seasons instead of 23, 26. This only being, 8 episodes, 10 episodes. Streaming allows them to tell a story and finish without giving us 42 filler episodes. And I think that is the quality of just content has gone up dramatically, I think, because of that alone.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm so excited with this show. See where it's going to go. And yeah, I mean, this is everything I'm into, all rolled into one. Sort of the dark fantasy elements, the science fiction. I mean, just all of it. I'm just like, damn. Every week.
Yeah.
Just don't, as long as they don't pull a Lost and chicken out at the end.
Yeah.
It's all a dream.
Yeah.
They all meet up in a Unitarian church. Including the serpent and the signal and grandmother.
But yeah, another solid episode. Two more. We were wrong about the episode count. Appreciate it. I don't know. I can't remember who put it in the comments, but somebody posted that in the comments. And yeah, very excited about the next 2 episodes. I did not watch the preview on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, me neither. because this show's been so fucking crazy. I didn't even want to.
Because you told me, you're like, oh, there's previews for the next two, and then I was just like, I'm not gonna watch it. So I did not. I saw that there, and I didn't watch it either. There was like a little mini behind the scenes thing at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
I didn't watch that either, but
And there's a full podcast about, I think, each episode. I can't remember the name of the official podcast.
Is it people from the show involved?
It's people from the show. Like, heck, it may even be Ridley Scott for all I know, but it's like the official, like, but hell, I hope half of it is explaining Acid Ocean, honestly.
Yeah, now I sort of want to go check. Peacemaker had a podcast, and I listened to several of them. And each week they would have a different actor from the show. But yeah, that's all I got. Anything else on this episode?
No.
No, I think that's it. And only to say that I did watch the trailer, but it only left me with more questions. So,
yeah, very excited about the rest of the season. Check out other stuff on the channel. We're doing Snowfall, Big Sky. That's going up late, if at all, this week. We'll see. But it probably will. If not, the next one will. But yeah, our schedules are shitty right now. It won't be as bad next week, but this past week was horrible. But yeah. All right. Appreciate everyone listening.
Bye.
Bye.
stay woke.